Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the stream. I am Bill, a company's expert, and we are going to talk more about careers and employment and getting a job. And today is the higher level hiring discussion. I'm going to start off talking about this, how executive job search works, how it actually works, not kind of what they say. But I'm going to share some of my experiences, some things that are based off my experiences. And then we're going to open it up to questions. So if you have questions about hiring or job interviews or all that kind of stuff, ask them in the chat and we will get to that. I want to welcome everybody here. You should see a chat on the right-hand side, and you can say who you are, say where you're listening from, all the usual stuff. And if you got questions, ask them in the chat and I will get to them. And if for whatever reason I miss your question or it goes by too fast for me to see or something, just do a super chat and I will prioritize all super chats. Also, one other public service announcement, and that is that this live stream will be archived on my second YouTube channel, The Company's Expert 2. A lot of people don't know that I have two YouTube channels, so go right now and subscribe to The Company's Expert 2 to see all of those. That's where this is going to end up, and there's a whole bunch of these things that are over there already, so you could check those out too. Okay, so higher level hiring. This is something that a lot of people have wondered. I've gotten quite a few questions from people that they have done the standard thing. They have applied to posted jobs and they have dealt with recruiters and they've brushed up their resume and they've learned their interviewing skills, and maybe they've gone out into the workforce for say 10 years. They're no longer green. They're no longer noobs. They've got a foothold in their industry of choice and they're wanting to move up. And the question is, well, how can I get a mid-level or a higher level job? How does that work? Do you still have to deal with recruiters? Do you still go through the same process? And the answer usually is no. You don't go through the same process. It's a little bit of a different thing, different treatment. Basically, it stems from the fact that they're no longer looking for an employee. No disrespect intended, but they're not looking for a grunt. They're looking for someone who's going to come in and actually make decisions about how things are run. They're going to determine how things are run. They're not simply going to take orders and follow them. So when you look for a person in that kind of role, things work a little bit different. Okay, we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do to discover those jobs, first of all, to be considered for them. And if you're being considered for them, what are the types of things that they look at that will count in your favor to be favorably considered for those jobs, and so that they select you? Okay. Basically, the whole hiring process has a lot of people confused. For a start, a common misconception is that you just have to be qualified for the job and then you get the job. And as we all know, or you will know if you've been through this process long enough, you know that just because you are perfectly qualified for a job, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be selected to be hired for that job. It takes a little bit more of other things too. And so the big question a lot of people have is, what other things does it take? Okay, so we're going to answer that. Nowhere is that more clear than when you're talking about mid-level or executive level jobs. Okay, so that's what we're going to get into today. Let's see who we got in the chat. We've got Go Better. Go Better says, hello, everybody. Go Better has been, if I recall, I think you've been making a few comments on videos, so right on. Radu, I know Radu. Always a pleasure to listen to your streams, Bill. Greetings from Vancouver, Canada, a fellow Canadian. So we're Canadian, right? So that means what? We're boring. That's what we're known for. We're known for being boring, I think, on the world stage. I think we're pretty decent. We're just boring. But hey, I'll take decent and boring any day over the opposite. Rafi is here. Good to see you again. Yes, it's good to see you too, Rafi. Thanks for joining me. Min, I'm starting to recognize you guys. Min, good evening, sir. Sorry for the absence in previous life. I was in the classroom. Hey, you don't need to apologize. Certainly to me, you don't need to apologize to anyone. I'm glad you're here now, and I hope that you will get some value out of this. So welcome to everyone. Okay, so we're talking about some of those jobs that are they're not entry level, they're in slightly later in your career, slightly more senior jobs, okay? How does it work? Well, the first thing you would need to know to really understand what's going on here is, first of all, approximately 90% of higher level jobs are not posted publicly, okay? You could call them hidden. A lot of people seem to not like when I call it hidden because it's not really hidden. The jobs are there. It's just that when you do a Google search for a specific job, you're not going to find it because they did not create a public posting. Okay. What would be a good comparison to try and illustrate this? Well, put it this way. Let's say you were needing some help, okay? And it was a pretty low-level job. You needed someone to help you carry boxes, right? That's probably a good example for illustrative purposes for like a low-level job. Someone just to carry boxes. So, you might post a job and it might be minimum wage, right? You just need someone just for a couple hours to carry some boxes. I got to move my stuff. Right? I'm moving from one apartment to another, or apartment to a house, or whatever. And I need a mover, right? All I got to do is carry my things, right? Now, you're looking for sort of low-level help, okay? You're going to be there to supervise them. You're going to direct them. You're going to be watching them. They're not really making any decisions about what needs to be done. They're just following instructions, right? So it's a low-level job. Now, you might post that publicly, and you'll get a few applicants, right? And then you interview a few people, and you select the person who is qualified, and you feel you can get along with to a decent degree, right? That's kind of how you make those decisions. However, if you were hiring somebody for like a higher level type thing, maybe you're going on vacation for, 6 months or something, like a long time, and you need somebody to watch your property. Let's say you have a house or something, or let's say you have an apartment and, but someone has to come in and, feed pets or something. So you can't just leave your apartment unsupervised, as it were, for that amount of time. Someone has to check in on it and do a few things. Now, let's say you were hiring for that type of position, someone to go and watch your stuff. Now, this person, you're not going to be there to supervise them. Okay, so they are going to be unsupervised. So you have to trust them. Moreover, you have to trust them with the crown jewels, as it were, right? Because all your stuff is in this apartment. And this person would have access to all your stuff, and you're not there. Okay, so all your personal confidential information, all your valuables, like all of that, right? Then, to a degree, they would also have to make decisions as to how they do that job. Are they going to stop by every day? Or are they going to stop by once a week? Are they going to stop by once a month? And what do they do when they're there? Are they going to vacuum the place and dust everything? Are they going to do a bunch of checks for, water leaking and mold and all kinds of things that could be done, right? So the person for this job, not only do you have to trust them, but like in the sense that you trust that they have integrity and they will not steal your stuff or steal your identity or sell all your belongings online. So when you get back, half your stuff is missing and you don't know what happened. They could be negligent. They could say they're going to show up and not show up, and you would have no way of knowing until you get back, right? So not only does this person have to have integrity, but they also have to exercise good judgment. They have to make good decisions about what to do, okay? And they have to be capable of doing things properly, right? So as you can appreciate, the person that you would hire for this role they're going to require a few more qualities than someone just moving boxes, right? So you're going to be looking for different things. And therefore, the process of, shall we say, recruitment and selection is going to be different. It's going to be looking for different things, and it's going to involve different steps. Okay? So the big question is, if you're wanting to put yourself forward for that job, what do you have to do? So we talked about how 90% of those jobs are hidden. First of all, if you were wanting to recruit somebody like this, you probably wouldn't put an ad in the newspaper or Craigslist or online. Because if you did, you'd probably get inundated with a whole bunch of people you don't know. You know, if you say, like, I'm looking for someone, I'm going to give them access to my apartment, I'm going to be away for 6 months, I'm going to pay you this much money just to sort of look in. There's going to be a lot of people applying for that, including a bunch of people that think, hey, you know, easy job. I don't have to do anything. And maybe I could clean up, you know, in a figurative sense, taking that job. You know, there might be some fringe benefits, you know, for doing this. So that might not be the best way to go about, you know, hiring somebody, finding the right candidate for that, right? Instead, think of what you might do. You probably would ask around, say, your friends and family, and say, is there someone you know? Is there someone that is trustworthy that I can depend on? Can you give me a personal reference for somebody that, you know, I could trust, that would be competent and capable of doing this, and that would want to do it? They're otherwise free and able to do it. And all that kind of stuff. So that's probably what you might do, rather than posting an ad online where any stranger can see that and apply for it, right? You want to pool a group of candidates that have passed that sort of trustworthiness and integrity test, right? So that's kind of what we're getting into, okay? When you hire decision makers in a business, it depends on more than just their technical skills, okay? I don't care if the candidate owns an apartment and therefore could presumably know how an apartment works and what to check for. It's not really down to that, okay? That's a given. We're looking for much more than that. We're looking for someone that will not steal my stuff, that will not say they checked on my place but didn't really check on my place, right? We're looking for those qualities. And how do you find those qualities? You have them demonstrated by somebody, by yourself or someone you trust, okay? So that brings me to, well, I guess I'll get into a list of like what you could do to qualify for that. But let's go over to you guys for a second. We got Rafi. Rafi says, I had a situation recently. I had an interview, and when it came to the salary part, I was not happy, so I turned down my candidacy. But today they called me back and asked me to come in for a discussion. Okay. It is for a senior level position. Okay. Was there a question in there? Well, that could demonstrate several things. First of all, they could just be stupid. Okay. You told one person that, you know, I withdraw my application, and they didn't pass it on to another person who then called you. It could always be that. Alternatively, they could understand that you turned down the position, and despite that, they contacted you anyway. They're persisting, okay? And that could mean a bunch of good things. So if you don't know, I would pursue it. And the way I would do it is I would kind of, if you had a demand, like you had a sort of salary requirement that they couldn't meet, I would state that up front. I would say, like, look, I'm only interested in positions that can pay this much. Now, I'm saying that up front. If you need to tell me now, is that something that you guys can meet or not? Because if you can't meet it, then we're kind of wasting both our times here. I would say that up front and see if they still persist in dealing with you after that. Okay, if it were me. The accountant 666. Holy crap. I'd like to see the accounting that you do. The magic happens at the network level. If you know someone that can help your friends, that is the ticket you need. Yeah, and we're going to talk about precisely how to do that, because I know about you guys, but I'm an introvert, like I keep saying. And the reason I keep saying this is because I know there's a lot of introverts out there. Networking is something that you hate, that you shy away from, that you try to avoid doing, and that you trivialize. In your mind, it shouldn't matter, therefore it doesn't matter, therefore you don't do it. Okay? Speaking as an introvert, I can tell you that perhaps the world shouldn't work that way, but it does. Think of the example I was just mentioning about the apartment, right? If you want someone to come in and have full access to your stuff while you're gone, you're not going to get a stranger to do that. You're going to get someone that you know directly or indirectly and that you can trust through your own experience or through a personal recommendation. Okay, that illustrates the point, because for higher level positions, in a way, they are handing over the keys to you. They are handing over their baby to you. They have built up this profitable operation, okay? And you're going to maybe run a little part of it or a big part of it. And for someone to trust you on that level, to like imagine if they got someone who was a psychopath or a criminal or totally untrustworthy and screwed the whole thing up. Like that would be extremely damaging to them. You could drive away all the good employees. You could ruin the organization's reputation with customers, with suppliers, with regulators, with all kinds of stakeholders, the owners. It would be very damaging. So they want to make sure they have the right person. And as the accountant 666 says, the solution is with networking, and we're going to get into that. Weather dude, I received an offer, but the hiring manager is not clear on goals when asked that I would be expected to complete. Is this a red flag to not take the job? Should I ask about performance metrics? It can be a red flag, okay? If they are deliberately slippery and they're not forthcoming on what you'll be doing and the details of the job, that can be a big red flag. That's a symptom of people that are kind of doing something unscrupulous, right? But not necessarily. It can also arise from recruiters who themselves don't know the detail of the job. Okay, they only know the job description that they were given, okay, by either the hiring manager, if they're internal, or the client, if they're external, okay? So that is also a thing. So without really knowing more, it could be either of those. You'd have to go a little bit further to see which one of those it is, okay? And if it were me, I would just go down that path as far as you can. You know, a lot of people, especially introverts, I'll say it, people who are not in sales, the way we think, okay, is we think that all of our actions should have a payoff, okay? So is it worth my time, to do this, to talk to these people? Now, you contrast that with someone from sales. People in sales, they know that, look, you pursue a whole bunch of leads, and most of the leads are not going to work out, and you have invested time and effort into these leads that don't work out. But for every 10 leads that you invest time and effort in, say 3 work out, and that gives you the payoff that covers all 10, right? So it's a numbers game, and that's how they think. That's how you have to think also when you're doing a job search, okay? If there's an opportunity, pursue it. Take it to its conclusion till you know for sure one way or another, okay? Don't take the attitude that, well, my time is so precious and I'm so busy that, if this doesn't look absolutely perfect from the outset, I'm not going to waste my time. If you take that attitude, the odds really are that you are turning down some great opportunities, because there might be some bad ones, things that, didn't work out. Maybe you could see it from far away, but there are a lot of things that are actually good that don't look great from far away, and you will have missed all of those. Okay. So if there's an opportunity, it just takes a little bit of your time. Maybe you go to a meeting or an interview or whatever. It's not convenient, but you got to risk your time being wasted to stumble upon great opportunities. Okay. So don't be too stingy is what I'm saying. Okay. Min says, sir, in your experience, what are common qualifications for higher level positions? Skills, experience, and other things. What should I need to prepare to reach that level? Thank you very much. Okay, excellent. That is a great segue into me resuming this. So first of all, I'm going to give you a few things that you can do that will help you with this process, okay? The first one is a little bit sickening, and I hate this word, but it's branding, okay? That is a word that a lot of idiots out there keep throwing around. They don't know what it means. To them, it can mean almost anything under the sun, just like leadership. They throw around that word too. And their definition is like it means anything they want it to mean. Branding is being known for a certain thing. Okay, so just in case you don't know this, branding is the thing that people think of when they hear the name. Okay, so I don't know, McDonald's, you think of like a Big Mac and fries. I know. Walmart, you think of, I don't know, cheap Velcro shoes and cheap clothes made in sweatshops. Amazon, you think of like, well, it used to be books, but and then it became like DVDs, Blu-rays, and now it's just about anything under the sun that you order online. It's the thing that comes into your mind when you hear Nike. You think, okay, sneakers, expensive sneakers, right? Like running shoes. So, like, look, Nike might be many thousands of people doing many different things, many different products, right? But what's the one thing that you think of, like just in a flash when you hear the name Nike? That's branding, okay? So the question is for you, okay, if you're someone that has had beginnings of a career, you have some experience in a job, what's the thing that you're known for, okay? Like, for example, you might work in an organization where, I don't know, there's John in the warehouse and there's Betty in accounting and there's Diane in insurance and there's George in operations or on the factory floor, something like that. Like you think George, you think, okay, the shop floor, factory floor, right? Anything that happens out there, George is in charge of. You might not know what precisely George does. You might not know him very well, but anything to do with the factory floor, that part of the business, that's George, right? Anything to do with insurance, oh, that's Diane, right? So it's like that kind of instant knowing what these people do, what they're good at. You got an insurance question? Diane. You got an accounting question? Betty or whoever I said, right? That's personal branding. That's being known for something, okay? Now, if being known for that extends even outside your organization where you work to a few people at a few other companies that maybe that you've interacted with, that's personal branding. You're known for that. If you have a business card and, you say, I don't know, John, chief technician, that's your personal brand. Who are you? You're a chief technician, right? If I'm starting to get my names goofed up, but if you have Diane, she was in insurance, I think. Business card, Diane, insurance. All insurance concerns for that organization go through Diane. Any question about insurance? Ask Diane. That's Diane's personal branding, right? So this is something you need to pay attention to if you want to get hired for higher level positions at other organizations, okay? You need to make sure that everybody knows that if you're Diane, you do insurance. Anything insurance related, I'm your person, okay? That's the basics of what personal branding actually is. It's being known for something, okay? Now, people have no idea who you are. There's no branding there, right? But, if they know that you can handle anything related to insurance, that's your branding. And this starts out by you understanding what your brand is, because if you don't know what you're known for, right, that's a problem. And this gets really complicated and interesting when people are changing careers. Because let's say you've been a teacher for 25 years and you're wanting to change careers to be, I don't know, something else. What would a teacher want to do? What was the line from the movie? Those who can't do, what was it? I'm sure you guys know it. Somebody tell me in the chat. It was those who do, those who can't teach, and those who can't teach gym, right? So what would a teacher move to? Insurance? Let's say they took some night classes on how to do insurance, and they're getting qualified to be an insurance agent, okay? And they're wanting to get their first insurance job. What do they brand themselves as? A teacher or an insurance person? That's the question. Okay. So anyway, that's personal branding. So you need to, first of all, know what your brand is, know what you're known for, know what your expertise are in, know who you're going to be to the person considering you for a job. Okay. And secondly, you need to build that up. Okay. And we're going to talk about that in a moment, but over to you guys. Where are we here? Okay. Yeah. The accountant 666. I love that. That's awesome. It's like the death accountant, the satanic accountant. You should have gone with that. The accountant who shall burn in hell, or you make everyone else burn in hell. Okay, I already did that one. Weather dude. Follow up. The hiring manager explained what I would be doing in the job and how my time would be spent. I am concerned about making it through probation period with no goals required to be met. Oh, okay. So they wouldn't tell you about what their expectations were after, like if you started in the job, what their expectations would be after 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, that kind of thing? Or 6 months? Yeah, that would be, well, I mean, once again, it depends on how they did. It depends on the details. If the hiring manager can't tell you anything about the goals, that's possibly a red flag if there are no mitigating circumstances. If it's a new job, they may not know all the details. If they're a general manager who came up through sales, but yet they have to hire a subordinate who deals with insurance, they might not know all the ins and outs of the insurance side personally, but they should still be able to give you some goals. They should still say, like, look, I'm going to give you all insurance dealings. You need to be able to handle them. Okay, they're going to be claims, they're going to be rate assessments, whatever. So they should be able to tell you something. If they can't tell you anything, yeah, that might be a red flag. But make sure it's the hiring manager that you're dealing with and not a recruiter. Lady Jill says, how can I evaluate at the interview and meeting? Okay, how can I evaluate at the interview and meeting potential coworkers how helpful they will be, as I have some skill gaps from reading the job description? Interviews have been going well. Okay, well, my gut reaction to that kind of question would normally be, like, in the interview process, you don't want to give the impression that you're going to need a ton of help, right? You want to give the impression that, you're going to be able to handle anything that comes along. Nothing's going to be an issue. There might be a little bit of a learning curve, but it won't be anything to worry about. You're going to get over it relatively quickly, and everything will be smooth sailing. That will be the impression you'd usually want to convey. Now, you said the interviews have been going well, so okay, hey, all the more power to you. If this is a really big concern, I would not sort of tax them with this during the interview, like during the selection process. I'd ask a couple of questions, like, will there be assistance? Like, who will I be working with? And if they say, oh, you're working with this person, you could say, okay, if I can ask, what's their background? Do they have a core competency in this, or did they come from somewhere else? And beyond that, I wouldn't probe too much, because you don't want to leave them with the impression that, oh, you're going to need a ton of help because you don't know what you're doing. that would be my gut reaction to that kind of thing. But if everything's going well, it's going well. Aside from that, I don't really know how much beyond that you could really evaluate how helpful they would be if you got the job. I think that's sufficient. Hopefully that helps. The accountant 666. Thanks for bringing up the personal branding aspect. Building the niche for which I am known for is key. Crafting my success story on that during meetings and seminars and meetings is how I do it. Yes. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's go deeper with personal branding, okay? Now, what you're going to need to do, generally, everything is generally, because when we deal with people and when we deal with HR, everything is going to work some of the time, okay? But I'm going to talk about what commonly works, okay? What has the highest chance of working. You are going to need to publicize yourself, okay? In some way, shape, or form, or many ways, shapes, and forms, okay? For example, an obvious thing to do is occasionally, if you are, say, at the manager level, okay, and you're going for executive, or you're at the executive level, you should be doing this already. First of all, executives, they are public facing. They deal with the public. Most people's jobs, unless you work in like customer service or sales, you're not really public facing. Okay. You're not getting phone calls and messages from the public every day as part of your job. Okay. Executives, on the other hand, they do. They get, they're dealing with the media. They're dealing with, government, regulators, that side of things. They're dealing with looking at the business environment, competitors, new innovation, new technology, new tools, suppliers, new suppliers, changes in the suppliers situation, changes in their customer base, things like this, the economy. They're constantly looking at that stuff, and they're constantly interacting with it as part of their job. That is part of their job. Okay. So having said that, if you're trying to get an executive job, or you're maybe on your way to it, okay, you have to do that on a smaller scale. Okay. You have to put yourself out there. If you are known for being an authority, if Diane is known for being an authority in insurance inside her company, that's great. But that doesn't help her if she wants to get a job at another company, right? So Diane would probably want to put herself out there in the larger business environment, okay, and be known as someone who's an authority on insurance or a particular type of insurance, whatever she does, okay? Now, this can involve interacting with other organizations in your ecosystem. So maybe you go to trade shows. Maybe the company sends you to represent them at a conference or at an event, or, you do public speaking, or you do public relations stuff, where you're making a statement on behalf of the company, or, like many years ago, I was the head safety guy for a company. You go to a safety conference, you interface with regulators, you interface with other companies, you interface with suppliers on behalf of your company. Okay, so you are branding yourself. You are the person at that company that deals with safety. You are the safety authority, the safety contact person at that company. So it starts on the small scale with stuff like that. Okay, then you can go further. You can go and start sort of activity outside of your job strictly and start branding yourself. So maybe you join a community of safety professionals, maybe on social networking, something like that. You're in a group or whatever. You start doing posts about safety. You start writing articles about safety. You go on, some kind of talk show or podcast or whatever and talk about safety. And they interview you as a safety expert. Then you publicize this. Okay, that's sort of the beginnings of it. You are being known outside of your organization as an authority on, say, safety or insurance, whatever you do. Okay, so what happens is if you focus on, say, that particular industry, say the safety industry, in your particular region, like your city or your area, your regional area, geographic area, and you start putting those things out, you will start to be known in those circles as an authority on safety or insurance, whatever you're doing. Okay. Now that can help build you up so that if another company is looking for someone to be the head of safety for their organization and you put yourself forward, okay, you could say, look, I'm an authority on safety in this region. I'm known in these circles. You might have heard my name. I spoke at this conference. I was at this event, this safety event that we had last week, representing these people, and so on, right? So that's how you start to get that, and then you become known for doing this. And if the person that's hiring at another organization knows of you, when you apply for a job, your reputation precedes you, and they can check you out. And that's the equivalent of hiring the person to watch your apartment that you have a personal recommendation for. You trust them, you know them, you know they're not going to steal all your stuff because they have that personal recommendation, that connection. Okay? Let's go over to you guys. Oh, I'm starting to lose the battle with the stream here. Teachers are masters of management and multitasking. Well, they can be, yes. I wouldn't say they are. I'd say I've known quite a few teachers that are not masters of multitasking and are certainly not masters of management. But some can be absolutely brilliant, yes. Dion's fringe gaming. Fringe gaming! Huh, that's even better than conventional gaming. Which book or approach would you recommend if your performance drops due to being too comfortable on medium-high management position, which prevents you from reaching higher spots? You have to be more specific. Is it because when you say too comfortable, do you mean that you don't find the job challenging? So you therefore are not taking any kind of bold actions, you're not making any changes, or it's just like a sort of steady business. The business itself is not fluctuating, and therefore there's no panics and there's no wild change needed. Is that what you're talking about? I wouldn't recommend a book. Like, I think if you're at the medium high level management position, you're beyond reading books and getting your advice from books. It's going to come from experience. You might get ideas and stuff from books, but you're not going to read a book as like a sort of how-to step 1, step 2, step 3 and just do it. Usually that's not what we see. Usually when you get to that stage, you'd be at the position where you could write your own book on what to do, and it's going to be slightly different from everything else that's out there. I mean, if you want to learn academically how to manage something properly, I mean, I recommend an MBA. Yes, I'm biased. I got my own course there. Where is it? Down there. I changed where it is here. Okay, the $100 MBA. You could check that out. And that gives you a reading list of all kinds of textbooks known all over the world that are used in places like Harvard Business School and things like this, and a lot of other, like Ivy League schools in the States and things like this, that are the Bible on their respective topics. So, that would be my recommendations. But look, I mean, it depends on the industry. Some industries, they are driven by innovation. You're constantly having to change. You're constantly having to scramble. 6 months can mean total change in that industry. Other industries are extremely conservative. The way you do business now is the way you did it 30 years ago, and it's the way you're going to be doing it in 30 years because it's not going anywhere fast, right? So it depends on the industry. It's highly dependent on the industry. Now, if it's sort of slow and steady, business as usual, I don't know if that's what you mean by comfortable, but that environment, it's kind of hard to distinguish yourself as some kind of genius or visionary because no major change is needed, and people tend to be very conservative in those types of businesses. The attitude is very much like, hey, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So, changing everything when you don't really need to is kind of looked upon as an unnecessary risk. So it might just not be possible. You would have to go outside of your role to distinguish yourself or to make some kind of mark. Okay. And in that case, what we're talking about, like in terms of branding and sort of publicizing yourself, that would be relevant to that situation too. Okay. Alzu says, have an interview in a few hours with a 4-person panel. Pretty nervous. Listen, I don't care if you're interviewing with a 10-person panel. It's the same, really, as being interviewed by one person. It's just the questions come from different people. Okay? There's really no difference fundamentally between a panel interview and a sort of one-on-one interview. It's all the same. They can only ask one question at a time. The only thing that sort of might make it a little more challenging is you'd have to remember all the people's names, and it helps if you know what their background is. So if you know that that person's the HR person, the recruiter, that person's the hiring manager, that person's the big boss, like 2 levels up that you wouldn't really be dealing with, and this person is a HR consultant that is here to assess you and has with psychometrics and has a background in psychology. Okay. Knowing that about the people really helps. It helps you frame the question considering who it's from and who's listening. So it might be a bit more work to memorize names and sort of remember who these people are. You might have to do a little more research ahead. Get on LinkedIn if you haven't done that already, and try and sort of research these people, see if they're on LinkedIn. And if they are, try and memorize, give yourself some cliff notes on, this person's the HR person, this person's the, psychometrics person, this one is the big boss, and that one's the boss. Okay, so there's a little bit more work there, but other than that, don't sweat the panel interview. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's just like any other one-on-one interview in every other respect. Pranay, I remember you. When to follow up after a final interview? They asked for references and documents, but it's been a few days. I haven't heard from them. So what I would recommend, and a lot of people recommend, is send a thank you note the same day. Okay, I know you're beyond that, but that's what you should do. Like later that same day, or very latest next day, send a thank you note. Ask them if they need anything. If they then get back to you with references, give them that as soon as you can, preferably same day. And beyond that, that's all you got to worry about. Okay, I don't care if they don't get back to you. I don't care if they get back to you 3 months later. Okay, it's out of your hands. Okay, you take your best shot. You give yourself every chance, and then you move on and you focus on the next opportunity. Okay, it's technically possible, and it has been known for people to contact you 6 months later and then tell you you're hired. I've heard people say stuff like that. Usually, if you're the person they've selected and they've made a decision, they will contact you very soon. Okay? But you can't always read into that. Sometimes people go on vacation, and when they come back, then they make a decision. Or someone's been unreachable for a while to do with matters like this, and they come back from vacation. So, what I would do is 3 business days later, I would send a follow-up note saying, once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to interview with you. Just following up, just to see if there's any word. Should you need anything further, please let me know. Thank you very much. Have a great day. And that's it. That's all I would do. After that, the ball is in their court, okay? And you should, for your own effectiveness and mental health, you should start focusing on drumming up more opportunities for yourself rather than, concentrating on this thing that's in the past and worrying about it and spending a lot of time thinking about it, okay? You've done everything you can do. That's all you can do. focus on the next thing. Always focus on the next thing. Devil's accountant. We all burn in hell. What we number crunchers do. Oh, listen, I assume you're an accountant, and I can tell you've got a sense of humor, and that's good. I would love to work with accountants that have senses of humor. I've worked with quite a few accountants over the years, and I can quite safely say that most of them don't show any kind of sense of humor or personality sometimes. So all the more power to you. If it were me, I think if this was a job interview for an accountant or something, I mean, if I was part of it, that would get my attention in a good way. Okay. As long as you don't say or do anything that could lead one to believe that you might say something inappropriate in a delicate situation or a professional situation. I think it's all good. That's great. We need more people with some personality out there, especially in the world of business. GM, I want to interview for a job in another department of my company, but my supervisor will be on the panel, and I know that I could be leaving. Do you have any advice in this situation? Yeah, I would directly address it. If it's a big concern to you and you think that it's big enough that your supervisor not only knows this or thinks this, but could be also influencing other people in that respect, I would say, look, I would love to stay here, especially if this opportunity were on the table. I would definitely stay. My number one goal would be to stay working here in this position. That would be something I would be very interested in. And, I'd accomplish a lot of personal goals if that were to be the case. Something like that, like if that's how you feel, assuming that's how you feel. Right? Everybody's always at a risk of leaving if something amazing comes along, right? All employers know this. Some of them don't like to admit it, but that's the reality. No employee is a permanent employee. Every employee will leave at some point. Okay? So if that's a concern, they think you might want to leave, that's, a higher risk of leaving than other employees, and that's maybe not the case, I would say that. I'd directly address it. And if you don't know where, I'd leave it right to the end and say, when you're shaking hands at the end, you say, thank you very much for considering me for this. I just want to let you know that if I would be fortunate to get this opportunity, I would love to stay here for many years because this would accomplish tick off a lot of personal wants and needs that I have. I would definitely stay for the long haul if this were on the table. I'd say that. And hopefully that should counter any intuitive hunches that they might have gotten that might not be accurate. But good question. Hey, all my buddies are here. EGR NHL. For job offers, should I be concerned if there is potential to be overpaid, or how to know if overpaid? I have seen people let go at companies because their salary during recessions. Listen, that's how things go, okay? Look, it's a problem in a way you look forward to. You're paid so much money that they lay you off when the company's in trouble. I mean, look, what would be the alternative? You ask for a very low amount of money, you get totally underpaid just so that maybe they don't lay you off when times get tough. I don't know if that's necessarily better, okay? You could be getting all that money all this time and putting it aside, okay? And if they do lay you off, hey, maybe you have a 6-month break, you live off all the extra money that they were giving you, right? And maybe drum up some opportunities on the side. I don't know. But I don't think that type of second guessing is particularly helpful, because the way these things work is it's an opportunity. And if they're going to give you more money and you can get that and everyone's happy, why not? If there's a real issue that comes up, maybe there's a recession, or maybe the industry is on a downturn, or maybe that company is not doing very well. Whatever the reason, you can always go to your boss if it's a major concern and say, look, I have a concern over, my compensation. I fear that my compensation being so far above the industry average for this role that, I would be the first to go if, we're considering cost-cutting measures. And I want to put it out there that if you are amenable to it, I would be willing to take a pay cut or to go down to a 4-day week or something like that. Okay. So you can always maybe address that when the time comes. Okay. It also depends on the relationship you have with your boss and all this kind of stuff. Okay. But you can always address that stuff when the concern happens. In the meantime, if it were me, I would just take the money if they're willing to pay you more. Jim. I like that name. Short and to the point. Jim, when is it too late to negotiate salary when receiving the offer? Do I need to justify asking for more in terms of experience and skills? You don't have to justify anything. Like, look, if someone says, look, I need, I don't know, whatever wage. I say it's salary. I need 50,000 to do this job. You don't need to justify that. If you need 50,000, you need 50,000. Now, if they don't want to pay it to you, they don't want to pay it to you. No one has to justify anything. It's not about persuading the other person, right? It's about you understanding your position. And God knows if they have a formal HR department, they know their position. So you need to know yours. And if you've determined that it just doesn't make sense for you to take less than this number, when you consider what you're making now, you're considering the risk you're taking in quitting this job you have now that you like, that's paying well, to go take this other job that may not work out. They may pull a fast one on you. They may fire you after a month. I mean, you're taking risk. So you would need a little increase, right? And if it just doesn't make sense for you, it doesn't make sense. You don't have to explain anything, okay? Now, as for when's the right time, when they give you an offer, first of all, you don't negotiate before you get an offer. You wait till they've selected you and they've said, we want you. Then you have something to negotiate with, okay? Okay, within a reasonable amount of time, I'd say under 3 business days for most jobs, I would get back to them and respond to their offer. And the way it's usually going to go is you're going to give them a bunch of things. You're going to say, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. No problem with this, no problem with that. This is less than what I'm getting now, but fair enough. This is also less than I'm getting now, but fair enough. However, I'm going to need you to make this change. Change that number to this, and then we got a deal. And then I'll start whenever you want, whatever, give them stuff. Okay, you can't just demand something. You have to give them a lot of things and then maybe ask for one thing in return. Okay, that's usually what can be effective. Okay. And you don't negotiate multiple times. You don't change your position a bunch of times. Okay. It helps if you know your position and you say, this is what I need, and you stand by it. And you have it worked out in advance. So when you say it, it's valid. Okay? Any bluff you make, you're going to have to be prepared for them to call your bluff. Okay? So just be aware of that. I'm falling totally behind here. Listen, I might have to skip a few questions because I'm just going so slow here. When is it too late to negotiate? Okay, we did that. Thank you for the tips. No problem. No problem, Alzu. Aditya, I am from operations backgrounds in supply chain handling projects. I am driven by the decarbonization agenda. Okay. I have got interview schedule and innovation department, but have no experience. Okay. Radu, how do you send a thank you note to the hiring manager when you don't have their contact information? That's a good one. So you don't know how to contact the hiring manager? How did you contact them in advance? Like, was it through like a sort of switchboard or something? If you have some kind of electronic contact person, like if there's maybe an email address that you use to contact these people, the best you can do is send it to that and say, can you please forward to this person? I mean, that's all you can do. If they're not giving you their contact information, sometimes that's like a real red flag too. When I see that, I always think like, what have you got to hide? What are you afraid of? I mean, okay, fair enough. If you're like an A-list celebrity, sure. You know, if you're Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, you know, Jeff Bezos, you know, sure. But like if you're just some dude at like some local company or a mid-level manager, what's the issue? You know, you're initiating contact with like an applicant. Why would you make it very difficult for them to contact you? That can be a red flag. Sometimes the answer is because they've treated people so badly in the past. They got a lot of people angry with them and they want to try and limit their exposure to the public. Not always, but that can be what's going on. Austin says, I made a lot of money day trading and have gaps in my resume due to leaving jobs. Is that a possible reason why I'm not getting callbacks if there's gaps on my resume? Yes, it can be. I've done videos on resume gaps. So if you want to see those, go to in the YouTube search box, type the company's expert, which is me, and work gap or resume gap or employment gap. I've done several videos on that. My buddy accountant there, I'm getting to the point in my career that I'm cutting short interviews, phone or in person, when I know it's getting nowhere, still all done in a well-mannered way. Thoughts? Yeah, listen, I can certainly understand that. Among the most unprofessional and amateurish interactions organizations have is when you deal with their HR department. This is counterintuitive, but it's well known. So believe me, I understand. However, that's maybe not the greatest thing to do. Listen, for two reasons. Number one, the more exposure, the more experience you have interviewing, the better. Okay. I know you're kind of midway through your career. You've probably done this quite a bit before, but you have never too much experience of doing this, especially when how can I put this? Hiring is a little bit of a flavor of the month kind of thing too. They have like different sort of things, like trendy kind of things that come in and out. Stuff is like a fad, you know? And so for that reason, the more experience you have interviewing, the more it will serve you. Secondly, you know, as I said at the beginning of the stream there are some good opportunities out there that sometimes you have to go through a bad contact person, a bad recruiter, or a bad contact person of some kind to access. So, you know, just because you encounter one rude dumbass out there, you know, it would be a shame if you let that irk you to the point where you say to hell with you and you drop the opportunity because it could have been something really good at the end of it. I have seen that. I've experienced that. I know a lot of you guys have experienced that. It's not the majority thing. It's not the usual thing, but it does occur. So just make sure you're not sort of prematurely, judging these opportunities because usually there's no way of knowing. And if you talk to most salespeople, they'll say the same thing. If you go on your first impressions, a lot of times they're wrong. You know, you really have to persist, you know, and sometimes it turns into a really good thing at the end of it. Go Better says, experience in such things like chicken feels like a chicken and egg problem. One will not be allowed to critical decision making without previous experience. How to get the first steps in housekeeping. Listen, one of the factors here, it seems like a chicken and the egg situation because a lot of people giving advice they have a conflict of interest. They want you to think that you need them. Okay. It is not a chicken and the egg situation. You could start today by creating things to put on your resume. Okay. You don't need to just stand out waiting for a job. Okay. Obviously, that's part of, a job search or a hiring campaign. Okay. But like, for example, think of things like, okay, just bear with me a second. Think of things like volunteering. Okay. Now, volunteering is regarded as a good thing to put on a resume. The reason is because, first of all, it signals a lot of good traits about you. It signals that you have a good work ethic. It signals that you are committed to usually a worthy cause. Most volunteering things, it's some form of charitable type of activity. So your heart's in the right place. You are passionate enough about a good cause to work at it, to donate your time and effort for free. Secondly, it also gives you experience. It gives you experience doing something, dealing with people, demonstrating all kinds of qualities. You need to be a good employee. Okay. And unlike a job, volunteer activity shows what you're made of. Okay. Because you're not paid to do it. You do it of your own free will. And that signals the type of person you are. Okay. If it's like internships to a smaller degree. You're really not getting paid for a lot of internships. So if you've made it through a long internship, you weren't compensated for it. You did it because you wanted to do it. That's what it signals. Okay. A lot of times there's a big factor there. So that's why it's good. Now, if you need experience and you've got a catch-22 where you can't get experience without being hired and no one will hire you without you having experience, you generate your own experience. I don't know what your area of expertise is. Okay. Go and do posts in groups where they talk about your industry. Go and do informational interviews with people in that industry. Go and create something that is in some way attached to that industry. So these are things that you can put on your resume. You can say, look, okay, I don't have any experience working as an employee in this industry. I've only been out of school 6 months. However, I have had sit-down interviews with these 4 general managers in these companies that work in that industry. And I've asked them all kinds of questions about how they do their job. They've given me tours. Okay. I've written articles about that. I've gotten feedback from people in the industry. I've sent my articles to people in the industry and gotten their reactions to it. And we've initiated discussions about it. And I've learned a hell of a lot from them. There's all kinds of things you can do that you initiate by yourself. You don't just wait for someone to give you the experience. You generate the experience yourself. And these form the things that you put on your resume. Okay. And usually, in addition to having things now you can put on your resume that have to do with your industry, that demonstrate your good qualities and your passion and your work ethic and all that stuff, in addition, the process of putting this stuff out there through networking will also directly lead to job opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise have been considered for or would have gotten. Okay. So that's something that you can do today. Okay. If you don't know where to start, start by going on social networking, joining groups for whatever your industry is, and start maybe doing posts, do like an interaction. Okay. Putting questions out there. Learn how to do informational interviews, learn how to do networking. This is all stuff that you would be doing anyway to get a mid-level job, certainly, or a higher level job, or just any type of job, really. It's great for students right out of school. I used to teach a course where, like I've said it before, where I taught the students how to network. That was kind of the big part of the course. And then I said, go out and get sit-down interviews with CEOs of these companies here in this city, in your industry, whatever industry you're in, Go and I'll give you bonus points for getting selfies during the interview with the CEO. And many of them did. Everybody started out by thinking, who am I to get interviews with a CEO? I'm nobody. I'm just a student. I can't talk to them. And most of them ended up talking to industry professionals. The vast majority did. And about half of them ended up talking to CEOs. And not only is that something that you can exploit directly, because at the end of the interview, you say, could I ever call you if I ever have a question? 90% of the time, the CEO will say, sure. And you got their card. And if ever you have a question, you could call up the CEO and say, hey, I remember me. I just had a question about something in this industry. Who would be the best person to talk to, or what's the answer to that? And, that can open many doors directly. If you want to apply for that company, you could say, well, I've already had a sit-down meeting with the CEO. Here's their card. I know them. And based on my conversation with them, they've made it seem like this would be a great company to work at. And that's what brings me here. Right? But there's many reasons why you would do this. Okay. And this is coincidentally some of the stuff you'd be doing to brand yourself if you're going for a higher level job, which is ultimately what this stream is about today. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that gives you some ideas. Young people have incredible potential. They have a lot of passion, a lot of drive, and a lot of energy. And it's just such a shame that the educational system and other interested parties like corporate HR departments try and tell everybody that, no, you have to wait in line and, you need us to do anything. It's like, no. That's the opposite of reality. It's older people like me that sit around and just do the default thing. It's young people that go out and try new things, and sometimes work miracles, do things that they never thought possible. You don't have to be a miracle worker, but you can certainly go and start generating a buzz and generating things that you then put on your resume. And that gets over that first hurdle a lot of times with they need experience. And also apply to smaller companies. Most people who have jobs work in smaller companies. Where I am in Canada, 85% of all the people that have jobs work in small companies. That means under 100 employees. And most countries around the world, it's a similar ratio. Okay? The big companies are by far the most visible. But the reality is that they are not the majority. Most people don't work in big companies. Most people are working in small companies. Small companies tend to care less about stupid, hard, fast rules like you need 5 years experience to work here. If they like you as a person, if you've demonstrated passion, if you're great to deal with and you know your stuff, who cares about stuff like that? Most people don't. That's the reality. A lot of you guys know this from experience. Okay, I have totally lost the stream here. I don't even know where I left off. But, okay, I'm going to give my last couple of tips here for high-level hiring after I take a breath. Thank you for being here, by the way. You guys are awesome. It's great to see such good participation. I just want to remind everyone that, in addition to my YouTube videos, I do have 2 courses that are right there on the screen. A Get Hired course or $100 MBA course. If you are looking to get hired, you're having a real tough time of it, you're intimidated by the whole thing, you don't know how to do it, you could check out that course. That's a solution for a lot of people. A lot of people have taken it, and a lot of people have been helped by it because I've gotten great feedback from it. Also, the $100 MBA, if you want to learn business, maybe you're thinking of starting up a business or doing a side hustle, but you don't want to go through business school. You don't have time for that. You don't have 5 figures to spend on that, but you want to learn it properly. This is the solution. This is the solution that I wish I had earlier on in my career. So check out that course. There's links in the description. Okay. Oh, and also I got to give a shout out to all my channel members. Thank you. I've got a couple of new members this week, so that's great. Members get priority for me answering their questions, and they also get one free video from me per week. And I've been doing business videos lately. Traditionally, they get an extra business type video for hiring or for entrepreneurial type stuff, or just general business topics. In the future, coming soon, I think I'm going to have more personal videos, just in case anyone's interested in that. So I've had a request, so I think I might actually entertain that. Okay. This is moving really quickly. I've lost where I was, so I apologize. If you really need me to answer your question, just do a super chat. Where are we here? So Ronald says, do you have any advice on requesting more design work as a civil engineer and supervisory experience from the boss? Requesting more design work. You want more design work and more supervisory work, and you want to request your boss. Should I include career aspirations also, as there's limited potential promotions? I don't know if I fully understand your question, but I think what you're saying is you want your boss to give you more work and give you more of a certain type of work. If that's what you're wanting, here's what I would do, okay? Go to your boss at a time when they're not stressed, when they're in a good mood, and if they have an office, like just say, hey, you got a couple of minutes, and if they say, sure, go into their office, close the door behind you, and just say, listen, maybe I have a little bit of a request or just something I want to put out there. Just so you know, I enjoy doing this type of work. I enjoy it, and I think I'm halfway decent at it. Hopefully that doesn't contradict your opinion. But listen, I would like to do more of this type of work. So, if you have more work to give me, I would appreciate it, because I'd like to do more of this kind of work. And if you do decide to take me up on that, you won't regret it. So I just want to throw that out there. Something like that, right? I mean, I'm making this up as I go along, but something like that. And that's all, just a one-on-one in private, when they're in a good mood, when they're receptive, and, address it directly. Okay. Depending on who your boss is and what your relationship is with them and how they are as a person and what their personality type is. I like to do these things explicitly stated, yet professionally stated. And then it's sort of a little bit formal, right? But also a little bit personable. And it's not up to intuition. You're just hoping that they intuitively read between the lines. None of that. Okay. That's how I would do it personally. And if you do it right, they could end up thinking, I like their attitude. They have a good attitude and they're a good employee. So yeah, I'll try it. I'll take them up on that offer and see if it works out. No problem. JSK. Is it wise to join a small company higher position or a big company middle level? Well, it's wise to do both. There's no point in terms of your career, okay? There's no point in being at a high level at a small company if nobody knows you, okay? If you're wanting to use the small company as a stepping stone to work in a bigger company, if that's your goal, there can be challenges with that, because working at a small company, working at a big company are two different things. They're really different. You do different activities. It's a different culture. It's different expectations. It's a different way of thinking, different priorities. So you can move around to a degree between big company, small company. I mean, I did that. But the problem is that a small company is not going to give you the brand recognition, right? If you say, I was a vice president at General Electric, or at Walmart or something like that, Walmart instant brand recognition. I think everybody's heard of Walmart, right? Everybody's heard of GE. Maybe everybody's heard of Apple or Google, right? Amazon. Like, okay, you get brand recognition. So if you're at a mid-level in a big organization that has brand recognition, that can count. If you are at an executive level in a small company that nobody's heard of, okay, now you may be qualified to work as an executive in a larger organization. You could be, but you sort of fail the test of reputation because they've never heard of you, right? So if it's a true executive type job or even like a mid-level job at a large organization, you may not meet that requirement. They don't have that trust factor with you because they never heard of this company and they've never heard of you. So, but both are good. Like if you're saying if it's wise, yeah. I mean, one isn't better than the other. Personally, I found that working in a smaller company was better. And I say better in terms of less stressful, but more educational, more satisfying because, you know, you can make more change in a small company than you can in a big company. On many different levels, it was just better. It was more enriching, more enjoyable. Okay. Now, technically, all things being equal, the larger organization will be able to pay you more for the same job. Okay, if you're going by salary. But if you're growing a small business or a mid-sized business, that can make you just as much money as just any job in a large organization where you're not especially, you're not sort of rocketing on the way up to success. How can I improve my public speaking skills? I've made some presentations to practice, but I feel it helps a little. I have a video on that, Marty. Short answer is practice, practice, practice. Okay, there's no substitute for practice. Practice makes perfect. Okay, I've given keynote speeches. I've done teaching. I was never a career teacher. I'm not qualified as a teacher with any teaching certificates, but I ended up working as a teacher in university on the side. That was nerve-wracking for me. And I had to teach 4-hour classes, if you can believe that. But yeah, practice makes perfect. Now, if you need some outside help and you have the opportunity, with your lifestyle, you have some time in the evenings, you can join organizations like Toastmasters. If you've never heard of them, look them up. Toastmasters, they're a global organization. They help with public speaking. That's very good, especially for beginners. You want to get up in front of a room full of people because that alone is something you can't do. That really helps. Okay. Some people stay in Toastmasters for like 25 years. I don't think that's necessary. They're very bureaucratic. They tend to assume that you're working inside some extremely large organization from 1950. That's how they plan everything. So if you're more entrepreneurially minded, you will not really respond that well to that. But definitely when you're starting out, just to get over social anxiety, give you bravery to get up in front of a room and speak off the cuff or deliver a speech or answer tough questions, things like this. It can be a very positive environment to encourage that. So that might be something you want to check out. B. Clark, I had an interview with a big company at the beginning of July. 3 weeks later, I had another interview with the same company and the same recruiter for a different position. I have not received a call. For either of the jobs, they said they would reach out, but I understand it takes time. What should I do? What you should do is move on, okay? You have done everything that you can do, and it's up to them now, okay? So no amount of, like any effort or time you spend worrying about it, being anxious about it, that's bad for you, okay? And it doesn't help the process, okay? So what you should do is take that effort and put it into generating your next interview, your next opportunity, okay? get another interview for another job at a different company. Keep them coming, okay? It's a numbers game. It has very little to do with you. It has much more to do with them and what they happen to be looking for than it does anything that you're doing, okay? So you throw a bunch of things out there and one or two of them will work. One or two of them will work out, okay? So always be thinking about the next one. Don't ever stop and just start hoping and sitting by the phone and waiting for it to ring, okay? Okay, there are many, many talented, qualified people, upstanding people that don't get selected. And you don't know why. Usually it's because maybe they had an internal candidate in mind all along. Maybe the boss is friends or has a personal connection with one of the candidates. I mean, that stuff happens, right? So just, if you don't hear anything, either they're still working on it or it just hasn't happened. Now, in the outside chance that your application fell through the cracks or something, I would follow up certainly once after 3 days, okay? You call and you say, just following up, or you send an email, just following up, seeing if you need anything further. Thank you very much for letting me interview. And that's all you can do. If it's really important, if it's like a job of a lifetime or something, maybe you follow up twice, 3 days and 6 days. But beyond that, that's all you can do. Okay? You have done everything fine. Okay? Move on. Move on. Okay? Generate more than one of these. Hopefully that helps. Isaac, mid-year performance review coming up. What is the best way to ask for a promotion raise? I don't know. Because, first of all, you have my deepest sympathy. Performance reviews are widely known in business circles as being completely ineffective. Not only does everyone hate them, and I mean everyone, like the person being evaluated hates them, the person evaluating the employee hates them. Not only that, but they have been shown scientifically, okay, to be completely ineffective, almost completely ineffective. Now, if you don't believe me on this, go talk to someone with a doctor of management, go to a university, go to an HR course, see what they're saying about performance interviews, pick up a textbook on performance interviews, on HR, and they'll tell you the data from survey after survey after survey after study after study after study shows that most people high up in organizations say we need to get rid of our performance evaluation program. The problem is they have nothing to replace it with. And if you get rid of it and don't have anything to any kind of mechanism to formally deliver feedback to employees, that's negligent or it fails due diligence. So they can't get rid of it without replacing it with something. The problem is they have nothing to replace it with. And that's why we are still doing this 50 years after we discovered this. Now, when you ask for a promotion or for a raise, I've done videos on this. Short answer is that unless you've got anything to bargain with, like unless you're threatening to leave and you're willing to put your money where your mouth is, you have nothing to bargain with, right? Theoretically, what you have to bargain with is also being a disgruntled employee. You would do a bad job, your performance would slow down, right? But a lot of times that has no teeth because most companies, their culture is such that they don't value that. Now, we all know that they should, but they don't, okay? The reason they don't is because they've seen many disgruntled employees threaten to quit, but they never do. And they threaten to be a problem, but they really it has no teeth because you're the boss. And unless they're prepared to leave, you control them. It's simple as that. So you're not in a strong position to demand anything unless you're threatening to quit. And, so therefore asking for it, what I'm sure a lot of people would say is that, give them information about the average compensation for your position in your industry, in your location. And if you come in under the average, you can make a case that you should be paid more. Yeah, you can make a case, but a lot of time it falls on deaf ears. And as we know, that goes up to the point where good employees leave and companies essentially don't care. Okay. Sorry, this is so pessimistic, but that's the reality. Okay. The way to get more money is to have like negotiation is based on options. You have to have an alternative. If they say no, what are you going to do? Just take it? You have to have an alternative. You say, okay, I'm sorry, but this company over here, they're offering me more. So see ya. Right? And then if your organization goes, wait, okay, let's talk about this, right? Because you are very valuable to them, then great, but you need that option. And as I say, any bluff you make, you have to be prepared your bluff to be called. So just keep that in mind. Okay? So if you want to get more money, get an alternate job offer. If you're really worth that much, get another offer in hand, go back to them and say, look, I need this much or I'm going to leave. And if they say no, you say, okay, see ya. And then either way, you come out on top. A lot of people don't like that answer. They want a simple, easy way to get more money. Sorry, there isn't one. You can bluff, and sometimes it works if they believe you. But if they call your bluff, then you're screwed. You've just lost your job, or you've lost all credibility, and you've labeled yourselves as a malcontent. Because you've signaled that I'm not happy with this money you're paying me, right? That's the signal that goes out. It also depends on the nature of your relationship with the decision maker. If they like you as a person, they know you're a good employee, that can factor in, but these are the facts, okay? You're welcome, B. Clark. Resume Master, I'm interested in changing careers from a technical role to potentially teaching school. Do you have any advice for this adjustment? Yes. Do what we're talking about on this podcast, which is get it through networking. Okay? Yeah, you have stuff on your resume, but you don't want to be hired for the stuff on your resume. You want to be hired for the fact that they know you, they've interacted with you, they think you're awesome, and that's why they hire you. It's not about what's written on your resume. It's about what they think of you. Okay, and you do that through networking. So let's get back to networking. That is kind of, in a way, the theme of this live stream today, which was, higher level hiring, how you get higher level jobs. And what I had said so far was that number one, most higher level jobs are not posted publicly. Okay. They're on the hidden job market, although people fear that term for some reason. And then the way you sort of get considered for those, because they're looking for more than just what's on your resume, they're looking for someone who is trustworthy. Being trustworthy totally outranks anything that you'd have on your resume. I don't care if you have a Nobel Prize and a PhD on your resume. If they don't know you, they're not going to put you in charge of their baby. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem. If you're trying to get a higher level job where you make decisions, okay, they don't care what's on your resume. I mean, yes, it's nice to have all this stuff, but that's a given. To be considered seriously, you have to be technically qualified, okay? What's much more important is that you can be trusted. You can be trusted in terms of integrity, and you can be trusted to make good decisions. Okay? That's what's important. So, the way to sort of meet those qualifications is you have to be known in some way to the decision makers. Okay? That's generally what we see. Okay? You have to they either have to know you or know of you. Okay? And the way to do that for a lot of people is to publicize yourself within the confined circles of your work environment, your industry. Okay? If you are confined to one location, one geographic region, like a city, you're staying in your city. You're just wanting to get a new job in your city. Okay? What you can do is in that city, in that industry, maybe there's an industry of, 50 organizations and a few regulators, a few investors, people like that, a few, press that basically cover that stuff. Within that little world, okay, you should put yourself out there. You can be more visible. You can do that by, as we covered, going to events, representing your organization, okay? You can also do it on your own outside of your job and write articles, do posts, do videos, go on podcasts, go on TV shows, radio shows, things like this. And be a person. You're in the role of someone in your position. Like if you're a safety expert or you're an insurance expert or you're a general manager, whatever. And you become known as an authority on that in your region, in that industry. Okay? People know of you. I'm sure you can think of some individual, some names that you've heard of, people that don't work at your company, but maybe they're in that world in your region. You see them at events. You see them speaking publicly and doing posts on things, right? Okay? Now imagine if that person applied for a job at your company and you're the hiring manager. You've never met them. You've never spoken to them, but you know of them. Maybe you want to verify them. You go online and bam, all this stuff pops up. All these posts, all these pages, programs you've been on, things you've done in the media, an article you've written here and there, right? So you're legitimate, right? So it's like, okay, now this person is legitimate. Now I can see that they are someone who knows their stuff, right? They have a presence. And where I'm seeing them, these are things that I've also heard of. I've heard of these groups. These are valid groups. Okay? So that's the kind of thing that can help you. Okay? Then when you show up to apply for a job, the first thing they look at is your resume. Your resume looks okay. But beyond that, they can see, this person is big leagues. Okay? They're an authority. They're regarded as someone that's respected, someone that's well known in that industry. There you go. They're trustworthy, right? For a lot of situations, that's kind of how you satisfy that requirement. When you don't have a personal connection to anyone in that organization. If you do, then that's better. Earlier in the stream, I was talking about like doing informational interviews, contacting people at companies, talking to them, doing sit-down meetings with executives, things like this. If you're doing that, that's even better. That'll open some doors for you, especially at those organizations. So yeah, I go into more about this in that course. Where's that? If I can orient my finger here. The Get Hired course. I talk about that. Okay, so we covered that. Having sales ability. Like, listen, a job interview is a sales pitch for yourself, right? This is something that helps you. So knowing the basics of that is good. In a job interview, it helps you if you can sell yourself. If you can say like, look, this is what I can do. This is what I have done. I can do this for you, right? And you have all the soft skills that sort of wow people. You're charismatic. You're a great communicator. When they leave the meeting with you, they feel a little sad. It's like, I enjoyed talking to that person. Right? I'm not a psychologist, but that's an incredible ability. Right? I've met a lot of people like that. I've met some masters at communication. Some of them are in HR, other people are in other areas, but that's an incredible thing where like you have a conversation with somebody and first of all, you really enjoy it. It's not one of those forced work conversations where you have to talk to this person as part of your job, but like you're actually enjoying part of it. You know, it's almost like you're on your lunch break almost and you're just talking to them and it's fun. You know, when they leave the room, you think like, oh, I like that person. That person's awesome. Right? That alone will get you hired a lot of times. Okay? For a lot of jobs, that'll get you hired. Like, especially like lower level jobs, like there you go. That's all you need to sell someone. Okay? It's unfair. It's unfair to introverts and for technical people unless they develop these skills. But let me tell you, a technical person that can tack this on is formidable. And I've met people like that. I've met outside salespeople that are incredible. Not only do they have a, you know, very deep technical knowledge of, you know, their products or whatever, but they have great sales ability and they're very personable. That's a winning combination. Okay, so that's a big part of it. You have to be able to sell yourself. Let's go over to you guys for a second. Do companies really check references? Well, some do and some don't, but a lot of them do. It's kind of a joke because depending where you are in the world, different things are allowed. A lot of times they just call the number and say, are you this person? And the voice on the other side says yes. And then they say, did you work with this person? What do you think of them? What were they like as an employee? Would you describe them as this? You know, stuff like that, right? Or if it's a personal reference, they just say, how long have you known this person? You know, can you describe their personality? You know, things like this. And what if a company asks for previous pay slips? Are you in India? I know that people complain that in India, a lot of employers do that. In other countries, that's illegal. But I know in India, I'm given to understand that in India, it's not. And that's more of a sort of standard. What do you mean, what if they ask that? Like, presumably you would give that to them, right? Is there a problem? Like, if you don't have previous pay slips when you say you did, is that maybe the concern? Like, if that's the standard, like, look, the reality is if that's what they usually go through and that's the accepted norm for what they need to hire someone, you may not like it, but if that's what they need to hire you, you might have to give them what they're looking for. Now, if it's illegal in your country, they're not allowed to do that, but they're asking for that. I mean, look, then you have a bunch of options. Usually none will result in you being hired other than giving it to them, right? But what you can do if it's blatantly illegal, usually there's some kind of employment standards authority, okay? And it's called different things in different countries, but usually a Google search will take you right to that place with the laws that say, like, you can read the actual law, okay? Let me show you something, just for the hell of it. If I can pull up a web browser, I will see if I can do this live on the air for you guys here. Let's see here. Nope. Here we go. So this is... Okay, so where I am, you can, let's say employment standards. Let's say you don't know anything more than that. Okay. So here's where I am. There's an ad, but the first real results here is the, you can't see the whole page, but here is the page of the government that deals with that right where I am. Okay. Now, right here, they have a bunch of phone numbers where you can call, okay? Now, if a company is doing something that they're not allowed to do, okay, it's illegal in your area, you call the number, you can anonymously, without giving your name or any identifying information, you can basically report them. Or you could just ask, you say, I'm applied for a job and they are asking me to do this. Is that okay? And these are the experts, and they'll tell you, okay, according to the law, right here where you are, here's how it works. They're not allowed to ask that. And if they're asking that, this is what we recommend you do. You don't have to give any identifying information for yourself, okay? Now, beyond that, okay, I happen to know that the law here in where I am in Canada, they do this in terms of acts, right? Now, because I know that, I can type in Employment Standards Act, okay? And then the first thing that comes up is this. And, okay, they've changed this a little. Here's some different versions though, but let's go to the latest one. Oh, they've totally changed this, but usually you could see, oh, here it is. You just got to scroll down. Okay, so here's the law right there. Now, if I want to find something in this law, like something about like vacation time or hiring or whatever, I can just say Control F, do a find on the page, and it will take me right to where it's like, I don't know, if I'm asking about vacation or breaks or hiring or, whatever the issue is, whatever the rules are, that's how you can instantly like sort of get the law. Here's the law. This is what it says. Okay. So anyway, that's a resource. If you got any questions like that for like hiring, are they allowed to do this? That's something you can do. Maybe I'll do like a proper sort of live stream on that. How to get answers to common questions directly, just in 5 minutes, No concerns, but deciding a future salary depends on previous payslips is one factor. Okay. I mean, listen, companies are always going to try to pay you as little as possible. All employers will try and do that. That's just what employers do. Just like when you go to the store and you have to buy food, you're going to try and pay as little as possible for the food you want. You're going to go to the store that sells the same thing for cheaper, right? I mean, that's normal behavior. So that's how employers behave. They will try to get you for as cheaply as possible. Basically knowing your value and knowing what's a reasonable amount to make, that helps. Sometimes knowing that doesn't really do anything, but having multiple options does. And if you are just looking for like a job in a big company, that's one way to go. If you are looking for jobs on the hidden job market through networking, that's another way to go. That can usually open up more doors. 75% of people who get hired through networking. If that's a surprise to you, don't take my word for it. Look it up. You'll see in your research that's true. And, despite what a lot of recruiters and things would want you to believe, they want you to believe that you have to go through them all the time for everything. That's what makes them more powerful. But dig a bit deeper, you'll see that's totally not the case. Ask members of your own family how they got jobs. A lot of times it might be through networking. The odds are is that that's what you're going to see. And you can also do more exotic things. If you know a little bit about business, you can use an extension of the things I've talked about today to start up a side hustle, essentially. Make money on the side. I do a podcast about that on Sundays called Let's Talk Business. I might be changing that. I'll change the format of that soon. But that's where we talk about that stuff. That's the kind of stuff that really sort of turns me on. It opens up a whole world of possibilities for a lot of people, being self-employed, being your own boss, but yet making as much money or more than you would in a corporate career. So, that's a very real thing. And most people don't even consider it. And in a way, it's good because then there's more for the rest of us who do. But if you are interested in that kind of thing, if working under somebody else's thumb is not really your cup of tea, not really your bag, you might want to consider that too. And remember, life is long. You have a long time to learn how it's done. And it can be an awesome alternate option for the things that people were asking today about, like negotiating salary or, getting different job offers. So it's stuff to consider. Okay, I'm going to close my web browser here. So finally, okay, to just sort of close the loop on this whole like high-level hiring thing, trust. Trust is the number one thing that they're looking for. It's hard to trust a stranger. The problem with higher level jobs is that those are jobs in which you have to make decisions. It's thinking work. They're hiring somebody to help them run things. Okay? If they hire someone that's bad, someone that doesn't care about the company, that's only in it for themselves, that's lazy, that's a criminal, that's like a horrible person to work with. If it turns out the person that they hired is any one of those, it's very bad for them. Even if they fired you, you know what I mean? It would still have a lasting bad effect for them. Okay, you can do a lot of damage. You could ruin the company's reputation with all their customers, potentially. Right? That's why they look for more than just technical skills. They also have to know that you're going to behave appropriately. You're not going to say inappropriate things. You're not going to do inappropriate things that would damage the organization's reputation. Okay, this is the big thing with executives. They are always representing their organization. Okay, maybe you work as a job. You work as an employee. And let's face it, most employees, you don't give a crap about your organization. You regard them as the enemy. You know, you refer to them as management, and it's like an us and them kind of thing, right? Well, the problem is if you also had ambitions to sort of move up and be a mid-level or higher level manager, unfortunately, you kind of have to change that thinking, that attitude, because that attitude, I don't care how brilliant you are in a technical sense, that attitude will eliminate all possibility of you moving up, right? You know, it doesn't make any sense to appoint a brilliant person to the role of vice president, okay, if that person then says a whole bunch of inappropriate, embarrassing things publicly that have all the customers questioning whether they really want to do business with your company in the future, right? Or being rude to people publicly, you know, or just doing silly things like not showing up for an important event or meeting or, you know, whatever. That's the stuff that has a major, major impact. So they have to trust that you're the type of person who is not going to do that. How do you convince them that you're not going to do that? You have to be known to them, or they have to know of you as a person who has a history of not doing that, right? That's a pretty safe bet. Okay, so that's what we're up against. Okay, a lot of people mistakenly think that all you need to qualify for those roles is to have put in your time, be technically competent, right? And be familiar with the organization. That's a good start, but that does not address the biggest hurdle, which is what I just said. It's the trust element that you're going to behave appropriately and you're going to make solid decisions. Also, a lot of young people, for all their merits, they either exhibit this or they're prejudged as to that they will exhibit this. You have to have a certain amount of maturity. You can't lose your temper. You can't keep it real. You have to be diplomatic. You have to be sort of always representing the organization. And until you've shown that you can conduct yourself and carry yourself like that, a lot of organizations will not consider you. Okay. And once again, they don't know. So the only thing they have to go on is experience. So that's why having been known, having been an authority in your industry, that's where that counts. Okay. So that's the importance of this. It's all so that they can trust you. And why do business owners sometimes misguidedly hire their own family members to do things, even though their own family members are a bunch of idiots? It's because, if nothing else, you can trust that your family member is not going to screw you over and steal from you and all that kind of stuff, right? That's the idea. That's why if you ever wondered why they put all these people in these high positions that really shouldn't be there, because they don't know what they're doing and they're bad at it. They don't know anything of the technicalities of the job, right? The idea, at least in theory, is that you should be able to trust them. Now, I'm not defending that, but I'm just saying how they're thinking when they make those decisions. Okay? So you have to present yourself as a person that they can trust, and they have to have guarantees of that. You have to have a track record of behaving appropriately, not ruining your reputation or anyone else's, not going out in public and keeping it real about your employer or your industry. That's basically how that works. And I just had a couple of notes that I wrote down earlier. The last one was less talking about your accomplishments and more having your accomplishments known by someone connected to the job opportunity. Okay? So if you're the person that worked at an organization and implemented this system, put this in place, enabled them to do business with these clients, that's the type of thing that you can say, and they go, oh, okay, yeah, I know that company does that. You're the one that helped them with that. Okay. Right? It's not about having accomplishments, it's about having the accomplishments known. Okay, so that's a lot of times. So if you can put this stuff in place, that's what really opens a lot of doors to you. No matter if you're an introvert, no matter if you're a technical person, no matter if you're not the type of person that loves to network and schmooze with people. I hate that stuff. I hate going to events and wine and cheese parties and cocktail parties and people supposedly get together and talk about business. I hate that stuff. I find it also very ineffective. Some of it's necessary sometimes, but I hate it. A lot of people do. But this is stuff that will help you, that doesn't rely on any of that. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, we're getting towards the end of this here. If anyone has any last minute questions, please write them in the chat. I'm just going to be winding stuff down while those maybe come in. 38 people are here right now. Thank you so much for joining me. You guys are awesome. You're taking your first, I don't know if it's your first step, but you're taking steps towards self-improvement. And that means you're awesome. That means that you're working on yourself. And you keep doing this type of thing, in the long haul, you are going to have some serious skills. Don't just listen to advice, though. Don't just listen to me or anyone else. Try things. Learn things firsthand, okay? A lot of you that have had careers, maybe you've been out in the workforce for 10 years, you've done some stuff, okay? Keep doing stuff. Keep trying things. And that's how you learn. And no one can take that knowledge away from you. Nobody can contradict it because you've seen it done firsthand. That's the best way to learn. Take all the advice you can, evaluate it, engage in some critical thinking, and then implement stuff. That's how you step outside yourselves and go on to great things. God knows I tried many, many things in my 20s and 30s. A lot of them failed. Most of them failed. But I stumbled upon some real winners, and that's what enabled me to have the career that I did. And I recommend that for other people too. Don't let a bunch of critics tell you that it can't be done or that you can't do it. If you've got the drive and you've got some brains, given time, you can do it. And everyone's a critic. Everyone who hasn't done anything loves to criticize people who have or who are trying. Okay, that's another sort of thing I've learned in my career. And a lot of people sitting around complaining that, it's all nepotism, it's all favoritism. Those are the people that are not in these jobs that haven't achieved anything like that. It's very easy to criticize it when you know nothing about it, And sometimes it's nepotism, sometimes it's favoritism, but most of the time it isn't. It's just that it's above your comprehension. There's other factors involved. And if you've never run a business, if you've never, like even just a one-person business that generates you $500 a month, or something, like just some little thing, if you've done that much, you will start to understand topics like this, okay? Because in order to understand them, you have to have the perspective of somebody who's in charge of a money-making thing. And when you make decisions about who you hire or not, it's based around, I've got this business, it's making me money, I don't want to screw it up, right? If you're the person that's hiring someone to move boxes, or you're hiring someone to look in on their apartment while they're gone on vacation for 6 months, you know what I'm talking about. It's not about technical skills. It's about, can you trust the person? Anyway, that's my soapbox speech for today. There's a lot more to employment than listening to. I always beat up on recruiters. There are some great recruiters out there who know their stuff, but there's a lot of them that don't. And they poison, for want of a better word, they poison people's minds into thinking that, you need these skills and not those, and this is what you should do with your life, and this is what you shouldn't. And most of it's wrong. Most of it's written from the perspective of critics who have done nothing themselves, and so give out bad advice to people who want to do something. I have encountered a lot of that in my time, and I see it every day. I go on social networking. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I'm sort of on Facebook a little. Sort of on Twitter a little, but I see it every day. People talking about business, talking about careers and employment, that it's either misinformation or it's just so misguided. And it's just, yeah. So anyway. Okay, over to you guys for one last sort of thing here. Thank you very much, sir. Love all your suggestions. Thank you, Min. Thank you to everybody who's been here today. I recognized quite a few of you. I wish you nothing but the best. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you want to go deeper with my channel, you can join as a member, like it says there. If you are at an impasse in your employment life right now, and you need a way to sort of get things started, you could check out my Get Hired course. I put all my advice in one place in a sort of step-by-step process where it's not broken down into 2-minute videos. It's just sort of one big process chopped up into little manageable steps, step by step. Here's what I recommend. Multiple ways of discovering jobs, multiple ways of applying for jobs and getting them. So check that out if that's the situation you're in. For those of you who want to learn business, but you don't want to take 2 years of your life to go back to school full time, but you want to get the actual content, not some coffee table book that really simplifies it and adds a bunch of misinformation. You want to get the real deal. Check out my $100 MBA course, where what you do is you basically get the same textbooks that are used in some of the top MBA schools in the world. The only difference is you don't have a professor reading them to you. You read the books yourself. You go as deep as you want or as shallow as you want, but it's all there. And if you really want to take it to the next level, if you can. If you just want a very quick overview, you want in 2 days, you want just the sort of overview of what management is and what business is, you can do that too. There's no evaluations, no exams, no assignments, nothing. It's total self-study, and I provide a lot of videos that sort of guide you through it, but you're the one that reads the material and learns it yourself. So if that's any interest to you, it's at literally 1% of the price of taking a full-blown MBA degree. So if that has any appeal to you, check that out. Link in description. And that's it. Thank you so much. I wish you nothing but the best, and I will see you for another one of these next Wednesday, probably at the same time. Thanks so much. Take care.